join remotely. That's something I did during COVID, but something that I think is good to continue to do. Also, if you find yourself unable to come to class due to athletics or anything else, you will be able to watch the recording later. And I typically will have those by the end of the day. All right, so good morning, and thank you for coming to our first class meeting for COM 111, Interpersonal Communication. I apologize for the miscommunication surrounding the building and room number. Sounds like we had a change to our building at the last minute, but I appreciate you all being here. I will see if we are able to do any change to ensure that there's more space, since I know it's pretty cramped in here, and that will not be a lot of fun long term. But I appreciate your patience in the meantime, and I'll let you know through email if we're able to make any additional change to our meeting location. So thank you all for being here, and I'm curious, how many of you are in your first year at EOU? How many of you are in your very first college class? Okay, it's not as many of you. Got some 9 o'clock classes that probably stole my thunder. Oh well. Welcome. We're happy to have you. I'm Ben. You can call me Ben, Dr. Mann, or Professor Mann. I'm an assistant professor of communication at EOU, and I'm also the co-chair of the communication department. So if communication is interesting to you and something that you want to learn more about, either as a major, a minor, or just somebody that wants to take more communication classes, I would love to put you in the loop. So many of us don't really know each other super well. So I want us to take an opportunity to get to know each other in the class a little bit better. And I would like you to find another student in the class that you have not met before. So a student that's not a part of a team or club or activity that you're in. And I'd like you to take some time to learn a few things about them. For instance, you might ask where they're from, why they're taking this class, what maybe a fun or interesting thing they did over the summer was, and something that people might not know about that person when they first met. As you're listening and sharing some things about each other, take some notes. You don't need to turn them in, but what I'll be asking you to do in about 5 minutes is to introduce your partner to the class. So I would recommend taking enough notes and make sure you've got their name down to ensure that you're comfortable getting to know and introducing them. So it's about 10:04. Let's take about 10:10, and then I'll ask you for introductions.
All right, look, your name is Jose. Very glad to see you. Colorado. Fun 17-hour drive. Yeah. Oh, I see. So what do you do? Work? What do you do for work? Oh, okay. I went to Alaska. My first day, I had not. But I'm not butter, nothing like I technically we might put some next thing. Nothing. No. With that.
Take about 2 more minutes.
Start practice last week. They were particularly, it's stuff like, you know how you do the music. I was told that how far do you from the eye? No, they just read it. Like a girl.
Now, one more minute, so we can have a conversation.
Kind of- It is what- Like, yeah, kind of like- yeah, no, I was like, yeah, he's like, we're gonna have a brand new field, we're gonna have a home field. Then you're like, wow, we're gonna build it, like, we did. Not a, it's like, no, a lot.
All right. Looks like we've hit the lull. So, I appreciate you all getting to know each other a little bit more. I appreciate how lively you all are. I think in the mornings, you get people who just do not want to be in the mornings and people who are really fond of taking time in the mornings for classes and things. So thank you all for getting to know each other. So I'm going to ask you to introduce your partner, share their name and some of the things that you've learned about them. So why don't we start here in this back corner?
This is Emma. She is in the class because it was recommended for her major, right? Which is education. And she did a lot of backpacking and stuff, camping, stuff at lakes, and she likes to do floral arrangements because she did that with them.
Awesome. Great to meet you both, Emma and Kirsten. Really exciting that both of you are into a lot of the arts and design. There's a lot of space for that awesome stuff out here. And, also, I know a lot of you were probably recommended communication by your advisor. Maybe you're thinking about a different major. One of the things that's really exciting about communication, right, is that it impacts everything. We can never not communicate. So I hope that regardless of where you're coming from for this class, that there's something useful you can take away from that experience. So thank you both for getting us started. Let's go here to the middle.
This is Manuel from Oregon, Adrian. Next behind the fish. Has one sibling. He's working on a sociology degree.
My good friend Yala here, he's from Hawaii. He's a business major, plays football, knows somebody wants to beach a lot. And one thing he's really good at is beatboxing.
Awesome. Manuel and Kiala. Awesome. Great to hear from both of you. Some really exciting, you said beatboxing. That's awesome. I remember a lot of the wannabe beatboxers in high school, but I'm sure you've got them absolutely. Awesome. Move on down the line.
This is my friend, she's from Juneau, Alaska. She doesn't really have any plans, so she can take this class for fun. She worked a summer job with a helicopter company that did tours. That was very fun, but also very cold. She said she did 10 activities throughout high school, including cross country, track, basketball, and soccer. Because dance manager, robotics, FCD of the year, headband, ensemble, and tennis.
Okay, this is Calvin, he's from Portland. He's doing this for fun and communication major. And then this summer he went to Vegas, which he thought was really cool. And then something interesting about him is he got a contract once in his movie.
You okay?
Yeah.
Is it associated with the Vegas trip?
No.
Okay, okay. You know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Double checking. Glad you're all right. Alaska is quite the journey. Portland, a little less of a journey, but I'm happy with it.
So, yeah, after we did like a group of three of us.
Sweet.
So I guess I'll share both of them.
Uh-huh.
This is Gracie and that's Tyler right there. Gracie's from Elgin and she's taking this class for her prereqs. She's lived in Elgin her whole life. And this summer she went to a couple all-star games for sport.
Uh-huh.
And then Tyler is from Umatilla. He's also taking this class for his prereqs. And he does competitive track shooting, which is pretty cool. And this summer he just kind of traveled and shot and did shooting.
Great. We'll be introducing you.
So this is Grace and Sam. Sam is unit task for prerequisite and you're left-handed. Grace is same thing, prereq, we've been Elgin her whole life and did all-star sports during the summer, basketball and volleyball.
Awesome.
And he played football this summer.
Great. Cool. I like how the common thread between the three of you seems to be taking this class for a free run, which is smart, great move. But great to hear about all three of you and some things about you. Let's move here to the next group. So let's hear from the pair over here on this side.
So this Saito, he's from Portland. He's taking this class because it was recommended by his advisor. One fun thing he did in the summer was he got to visit Seattle.
So
This is Aloha from American Samoa. He's taking this class because his advisor told him to. And the fun thing he did this summer was visit them.
okay. Great to hear from both of you and some travel, right? And you know, listening to your advice is always a good call. All right, so let's move down to this side. So I think we have a pair over here.
This is Sid, she's a freshman from Utah, and she's on the soccer and track team here. And she chose this class because she thought it was interesting, and, she went to Bryce Canyon this summer and hiked it, and, she never saw the Rubik's Cube.
Impressive.
This is Bree, she's from Spokane, and she's a transfer from Walla Walla, and she's on the women's basketball team. And she also took this class because it was interesting, and something we found that she'd already summer was go to Vegas with her boyfriend, and she also has two siblings.
All right. Vegas is a go-to. It's kind of fun. Whereabouts in Salt Lake or in Utah? Sorry. Western. Yeah. I lived in Salt Lake City for 5 years and was there before I came here. So I did grad school and worked at the University of Utah. So welcome. I've had you both in. Move here to this side.
Well, this is Zeke, this is his fourth year credit wise, he's a junior. He's on the pre-vet pathway, and he's a big cat lover. He's from Idaho and has lived in Elgin for 5 years and he commutes to campus from Elgin.
Yeah. Especially when the roads start getting weird in the winter time.
This is Macy Linville. She's also from Idaho, though she only moved over recently. She's on the cheerleading team. She's on a pre-nursing pathway. She wants to be a pediatric oncologist. Yep. Which is dealing with children with cancer. Let's see, do I have anything else?
Awesome. We've got some good representation from Elgin. I know a lot of you come from some of the surrounding towns and areas, so I appreciate you all making the trip. Also, your background is great. I do health communication work. I'll be teaching a class later in the year about communicating health and science. So I know a lot of folks in the health pathway get interested in that sort of thing. So welcome. Glad to have you both here. Let's move up here to the front.
Yeah, this is Jose. He's here to play football. He's also from Washington. He took this class because his advisor recommended it. Over the summer, he did a lot of work doing hay baling. And something cool about him is he enjoys going to rodeos.
Nice.
So this is Brock. He's from Colorado. He's a transfer sophomore. And he plays baseball here. And he's taking this class because his advisor recommended for him. And something cool he did this summer is he went to Alaska for a hunting trip.
Nice. So got some Alaska travel. I also have become a lot more familiar with kind of like rodeos and things in Eastern Oregon, like the Pendleton Roundup and things like that. So if you're involved in that, I think that stuff is really cool. We have an agripreneur club on campus that some of you might be a part of as well, which also kind of connects to a lot of those activities as well. So welcome. And let's go over here.
This is Nick, he's from the Netherlands. He took this
Awesome.
class because his advisor there said he should take it. And something fun to do in summer when he went to Spain, and he's also on the soccer team.
This is Max, he's taking this class because it's a class going to. We went to the wakeboarding this summer, and he's on the track.
Awesome. Is that from the Netherlands?
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome. We're really glad to have you here. That's super exciting. And great place to do things like track, really nice weather a lot of the time. So glad to have you both. Move over here. So do we have a partnership or trio over here?
This is Josiah. He's from Boise, Idaho. He plays football for the university. It's his first year here and is attending majors in accounting.
This is Tucker, he's from Pineville, Oregon. He's a wrestler, it's also his first year, and his degree is fire service administration.
Awesome. Really important work. I think it's interesting because depending on the class, people are more or less sure of what they want to major in and do. There is a lot of folks who know their track, which is awesome. If you're not there, if you're kind of having fun and scoping things out and still trying to figure out what to do, that's okay. I was indecisive for the first couple of years of college as well, so I definitely understand that. And college isn't a chance to sort of figure out what you like to do. So welcome, glad to have you both here. Move on to second row over here.
This is Josh, he's from here. He's taking this class because it's a lighter workload than a science class.
Yeah,
This
sure.
summer, he went to Seattle to see his friends and he designs and 3D prints.
Awesome. 3D printing, very cool.
And this is Brooke. She's from Lapine, Oregon. She likes camping. She did camping this summer and has some lakes over
Oh yeah.
there. And she played volleyball.
So one of my favorite places to go to that I always went to as a kid is Cascade Lakes and specifically Water Lake. My dad loves to fish and that's like his place. So I know that area really well. 3D printing sounds awesome. I know that there's been a lot of like design and technological advancement with that design, and it's really cool to see that stuff in action. So Josh and Brooke, thank you both. And let's move on to the front.
This is Aiden Hall.
Aiden.
He's from Reno, Nevada. He's taking this class because it helps with his major in fire science.
Okay.
One thing he did fun over the summer was go to Florida. And something that people might not know about him was he plays football. I thought this one.
Yeah, this is Jason Grant. He's from Toppenish, Washington. He's taking this class because he said communication helps with everything. What is just one fun or interesting, or a fun or interesting thing you did over summer was graduate high school, and something that people might not know about him is he's got some Mexican in him.
Okay, awesome. You don't always know when you first look at somebody, right? You learn a lot about people's background and experience over time. Awesome. I think we got everybody. Is there anyone that I missed? A little bit of an unorthodox pattern. I think we got everybody. Awesome. I really appreciate you all introducing each other to the class. If you see me like going around and like muttering as I'm moving around, it's just to try to get you all's names down. I try to do that within the first couple weeks. So it'll take me a little bit, but I really want to make sure I've got you all's names and understand all of that. If there's a way you prefer to be referred to in the class that I'm not doing, I'm happy to support you there as well. So I thought this was both a fun introduction and perhaps unsurprisingly, right, you all just did interpersonal communication, what we do all the time. We can think about interpersonal communication as the transmitting of meaning and conveying information primarily between two people. So some of the things that I noticed, folks who really are kind of dynamic and engaged, in their gestures and physicality, kind of like push their chairs back a little bit to gesture a little bit more. People such as in the front here with Aiden and Jason, we're kind of doing this nonverbal confirmation. Oh, it's football, right? We use those nonverbal signals and confirmation as we're speaking with each other, right? The way that you all took notes and used this idea of active listening to understand each other and figure out what you all do, I think is really valuable. A lot of times when we're communicating and listening to each other, right, we don't remember things that we should, like somebody's name. We're like, oh, I think I know what their name is, but I'm too shy to say what it is because I might get it wrong, right? So I think the mean version of this activity is to not tell you to take notes and ask you to introduce your partner. So didn't do that, but I do enjoy you all choosing to disclose and share some details about each other. So thank you for doing that. So introduce yourselves. I want to tell you a little bit about my background and sort of how I ended up here, right? So we've got a number of folks from Oregon or the Pacific Northwest. I grew up on the western side of the state. So I grew up in the town of Westland, just outside of Portland, and lived there for about 22 years. For the longest time, I thought I was going to be a high school teacher. I was really excited about teaching high school English, but then, and I don't mean to sound mean, but I did start to work with high schoolers and realized that that wasn't quite the direction that I wanted to go in. But at the same time, my activity and thing that I really enjoyed both in high school and in college was speech and debate. I love current events. I love public speaking and presentation and all of those things. And so I really fell in love with doing speech and debate. And that brought me to Stockton, California, where I pursued a master's in communication and got to coach their speech and debate team. I really got interested in this idea of rhetoric, of persuasion, of how we make messages that influence and impact our lives, right? We see this happening all the time on a whole range of different topics and issues, right? There's a lot of contentious things going on as we head into a midterm election, right? There's discussion about a range of topics like the economy, like inflation, like abortion, like so many different issues, and how that communication is happening and how people are persuading and convincing and engaging with each other on issues that have impact, right? It's really important and interesting to me. And then I moved to Salt Lake City, where I lived for 5 years as I completed my PhD in communication at the University of Utah. But I always wanted to go back home to Oregon. You know, I am in my second year here at EOU, and I've really come to enjoy it out here in La Grande, right? We are kind of, if you're from a city, right, it can be a little bit isolating at first, but I think that there's a big community of people who are really interested in your success, right? EOU is a great place to be. There are classes, students, professors, activities that are really exciting. You know, whether it's the theater department, agripreneur club, the athletics and activities on campus and online, right? There's so many things that are happening here. If you haven't heard this already, you've taken a previous class, we're happy that you're here, right? I know, especially in the last 2.5 years with COVID, that it's been a really challenging time. In fact, for some of you, this might be your first or one of your first opportunities returning back to a classroom. For those of you that have been remote, right? I finished school right in March of 2020, before the funniest thing happened, right? And I understand that for a lot of students, that experience, the sort of long-term effects and impacts of COVID don't really go away, right? Feeling that isolation of having family and friends who might be sick or hurt. So I really recognize that you all are coming into this class from a really unique perspective and background. One that I might not understand firsthand in the same way, but one that I really want to empathize with and support as you're working through the class. So I'm glad to have you here. If there are things that I can do to help support you as you're working through this and your other courses, please let me know, right? The thing that I really value in teaching courses, in addition to making them fun, making them interesting, is to really be transparent with you about what I'm expecting, what I'm looking for. You know, being clear and helping you to plan and figure out the course and your other courses is really important to me. So just know that I really take seriously the unique experience of being a college student in what is an increasingly strange world. So as mentioned, I do a few different things here at EOU. One area that I specialize in is health communication, right? So in particular, I'm interested in how folks with disabilities advocate for their needs and support. As a person with a disability myself, right, it's interesting to understand the unique needs and challenges that people have. So rhetoric, persuasion, those are the topics that I'm really interested in. I'm also teaching a course this year called Communication and Social Change that looks at some of those issues. So I'm interested in those things. As mentioned, I do speech and debate. That is the University of Utah speech and debate team that I coached and worked with for several years. We're trying to get speech and debate going here at EOU. This is something near and dear to my heart. So if that's something that's interesting for you, stay tuned. And again, I publish research and do work related to disability activism and the ways in which online communication and opportunities have impacted it. I think it's always useful to just get a little context and information about instructors, where they come from, so wanted to do that. However, I'm also a human being, believe it or not. So some of the things that I like to do, I am an avid hiker. I love to go outside, do hikes. I took a hike out near Mount Hood that you can see in the background a couple weeks ago. This is my dog, Sylvie. She's also my lock screen. She is a 3-year-old Labrador Retriever, has a ton of energy. We'll do like a 10-mile hike and still have some energy to play afterwards. She's great. One thing that I like to do in my spare time, so I loved video games growing up. I played, perhaps dating myself, on the PlayStation when I was 5 years old. I played like the original Crash Bandicoot growing up. Again, I'm getting older and older. But one thing that I shifted to over time was video game design. So I've been working on a role-playing game for the past couple of years. Doesn't have any graphics, but it's in kind of a prototype state. So that's something that I like to work on in my free time. And another thing that I really enjoy is live music. So HQ is an event venue here in La Grande. If you haven't been, they do some open mics, they do some live shows. I love live music. I love learning and seeing the energy of bands. Probably one of the most interesting bands or live music shows that I saw over the summer was a doubleheader with Avril Lavigne and Machine Gun Kelly. Don't judge me. I was there for Avril. She was the sound of my high school experience. So I enjoy live music, listening to music, making jokes about song lyrics, all that fun thing, all that fun stuff. So I am sorry that you'll need to put up with that this term. So as you all did just now, right? Interpersonal communication. So when we think about what interpersonal communication is, it's the name of this course. So I think it's helpful for us to understand what it is that we're talking about, right? I like to give a short introduction of some of the content that we'll be going over in the term. So interpersonal communication is communication between people, right? Inter referring to a relationship or interplay. Personal referring, of course, to human beings. So in particular, interpersonal communication is happening between two people, whether or not it's face-to-face, it's online, it's synchronous, it's asynchronous, right? Other courses that we offer at EOU focus on things like small group communication, organizational communication, leadership communication. But what we're really looking at is dyads, right? Two people. Communication has a lot of definitions, and I think one of the best ways to distill it, right, is this idea of how we use symbols to convey meaning. So communication is not just talking to somebody. Communication is sending an email. It's sending a GIF, right? It's using TikTok to self-disclose and share the experiences that you have as a person, right? So communication just covers this idea of meaning. Communication does not necessarily mean that you're getting advertisements that you just throw in the trash, right? It's symbolic, but it's also meaningful to you. It matters. It impacts your life, right? Symbols are little squiggly lines, curves, and all of those things that make the letters that we use, right? All of that stuff is pretty basic, but symbols can also be our use of gestures, our use of nonverbal communication. In fact, over 80% of our communication that we do face-to-face is nonverbal, and we're more likely to trust our nonverbal communication than our verbal communication. If I say, I'm really excited to see you, right? You're going to pay attention to my tone of voice, the nonverbal part, and think, no, he's not. I am, don't worry, rather than the verbal elements. And we cannot not communicate, right? Even if you're in a Zoom meeting and you have muted yourself and turned your video off, that is communicating to some extent your absence or unavailability, right? Communication matters for a lot of reasons, of course. But one thing that I pulled up recently was Indeed, which you might be familiar with as a website that circulates job postings and is a major site that people use in order to recruit and hire people for jobs. And Indeed posted the 11 skills that employers look for in job candidates. And what was the number one? Communication skills, right? If you search a hiring manager or company or website, chances are the number one or nearly the number one skill that they want is communication. Communication is something we might think we do well, but we always have room for growth and space to improve how we communicate. So communication is not just crucial to our everyday lives, it's also incredibly marketable and really helps us to prepare. Communication skills are needed in virtually any job. Employers want team members who can interpret what's being asked with them and effectively communicate with others, right? So improving and growing on our communication, whether it's writing, speaking, listening, negotiating, those are skills that follow us everywhere. My advisor liked to put it, communication are tools for living. So what I'd like to do next is go over some of the course policies and things to know about this course, right? I know that going over the syllabus and all of that can be a little bit boring, but as mentioned, I really like to be as transparent as possible with you about what I'm expecting and looking for in the course. How many of you have been able to access this course through Canvas? Several of you, right? If you haven't already, you should have received an email invitation to join this course's Canvas page. So Canvas is how I will be posting announcements and updates about the course. It's also where you'll be submitting your assignments, and is just generally a good place to be as you're navigating this course or if you have questions related to this course. Listed, you'll notice that there's a schedule grid that has all of the assignments and things that you need to work on in the class, along with the topics and issues. I've hyperlinked the assignments and readings so that you can easily access those. If you would like to meet with me during my student hours, those are 9 to 9:50, 11 to 11:50, or you can set up an appointment with me. I have office hours both face-to-face and through Zoom. What that means is I'll be upstairs, but I'll also have the Zoom room open. So if you need to meet with me about anything, I will be right there. Be talking about the makeup assignment in just a minute, but it's right there. And again, the syllabus is linked here right on the front page. If you're not familiar with what a syllabus is, or you're getting your bearings, right? Think about the syllabus as an instruction manual, right? Going over the major things to expect and the major policies to know about. The room is apparently a lie. Again, I apologize for that last minute change. You're welcome to get in touch with me through email. You can also use the Canvas notification feature to get in contact with me. I have an office phone. It's a weird landline, but if I'm in my office, I'm able to pick up on it, and I get emailed my voicemail, so I should be able to answer that too. But email is the best way to get in touch with me. Look, y'all have seen the price of gas, right? Being a student at EOU and paying through school is challenging. I recognize that, and I do not think that you should, in addition to all the work that you're already doing, be paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars for your textbooks. So we do not have any sort of textbook purchase requirement for this class. There is an ebook that's really good and written by experts in the field that is completely free. I've broken it up into smaller PDFs that you'll be able to access as we work through the course. Again, reducing the financial burden on you all is incredibly important to me. I'll respond to emails pretty quickly, so feel free to get in touch with me, but I do reserve 48 hours to answer emails, so please get in touch with me with that in mind, right? I do teach other courses, and I might not be able to get back to you if you need something that's time sensitive while I'm teaching other classes. Again, I will always be in my office, right? I'm the type of person that just hangs out in the office, whether or not I have appointments set up. So you are welcome to drop in, right? You can meet with me about just about anything. So if you're interested in just kind of talking about the experience that you're having in the class, if you have questions regarding particular assignments in the class and so on, please let me know. Formatting of this got a little bit weird. I think we can keep going here. So I'm not going to go over some of the learning outcomes and things in a lot of detail. Just know that our ability to learn and improve in our communication is a really big goal of this class, is to understand what communication is and to help you in developing those skills. If you need accommodations, I recommend getting in touch with the Disability Services Office or DSO. I'll work with them. I take your accommodations really seriously. I recognize that access to things like medical care and a diagnosis has privilege. So I try to make the course as accessible as possible, but I'm also willing to support any accommodations that you need. We should avoid discrimination on a lot of different counts, right? This is a challenging environment that we find ourselves in socially and politically. I believe in supporting diversity and the needs of students and experiences from a diverse range. There's also the Title IX office. If you experience discrimination, get in touch with. I encourage you to regularly check, get updated with your email. There's some notes here about academic dishonesty or plagiarism. I would much rather have you turn in something late or not at all than to plagiarize it off the internet, right? I'm not sure what plagiarism is. I'm happy to talk with you about that. So we're in a kind of unique place with COVID, right? Where COVID has never really gone away. It's just gone down in case numbers. I want to emphasize that if you would like to wear a mask for any reason, you're welcome to, right? I don't want a setting where the decision to do that or not is something that is invading your privacy. Things can change. Life happens while you're making plans. If anything surrounding the COVID policy changes, I will let you know. I let you know about the office hours and contact for me. I'm happy to talk with you if there's any issues that come up in the course. About grades on assignments or anything else. Technology, you're welcome to use a laptop, tablet, device, etc. But if it becomes a distraction in the class, right, please don't use it in that way. We're only meeting for 50 minutes, so I think we should take advantage of the time that we have together. If you're late or early, or you're late or you leave early, you can let me know, or we can work out a plan to help you and support you in all of that. So a couple of you mentioned maybe being involved in firefighting, right? And similar initiatives. So if you have a fire, right? Say a small fire is in your living room. What do? You get a fire extinguisher, you get water, you put it out, right? You do not let the fire burn down the entire house until it's smoldering ash and say, help, there was a fire. What do I do, right? As the remaining beams are falling off and are completely burned, right? I want you to think about your classes in the same way, especially if this is your first year, right? I know it can be overwhelming and challenging, getting a lot of information, you're figuring out your schedule and all of that. If you are falling behind, if you need help, if you need additional support, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you develop a plan and be able to stay on track in your classes. It is much easier for me to help you put out the fire early than to be at the end of the term and say, help, I didn't turn in all of my assignments I want to pass, right? So the sooner you get in touch with me, if you're feeling that strain, the better. And I know that every professor will tell you, we want you to succeed, and we really mean that. I absolutely hate not being able to support students. So please, please, please reach out to me if you need that additional help. Written assignments should be submitted to Canvas. Again, you'll have the opportunity to upload files. If you use something like Google Docs, you can download it and then attach that downloaded Google Doc. Late assignments are -5%. However, if you need an extension, if you know that you're falling behind or you have a whole bunch of things happening in your other courses, just let me know, ideally a week in advance, and I'm happy to talk with you about making that extension happen. Grading is pretty standard. I think in a lot of classes, you don't know what your grade is until this term is over, and I think that's kind of terrible. So I try to regularly update you about what your grade is and what you should expect. I'll talk about citing sources in a bit, but for the formal written assignments you'll be doing later in the course, I will go over those expectations. Rough drafts and outlines. If you want to send me a rough draft or outline in advance, you're welcome to do so, and I'm happy to give you feedback. In fact, a lot of students who turn in a draft or outline ahead of time get some feedback from me and turn it back in, do a great job on assignments. So you're welcome to use that if you'd like. So each week, apart from weeks 5 and 8, there is going to be a short prompt on Canvas Generally speaking, the response should be about 2 or 3 paragraphs. I'm not looking for you to produce an essay every time, but instead an informal response that addresses the issue, right? Given people who might be gone for athletics or other activities, there are a total of 8 prompts. You can choose 6, right? And if you complete more than 6, I will grade your highest 6. So I encourage you to start to map out your calendar and pace yourself based on when you see those pressure points happening, right? An easy way to do this is to enter your schedule with the due dates on assignments in your schedule or planner and figure out, okay, this is going to be an intense week. I have a midterm in chemistry, right? And use that in order to assist with completing assignments. So we do have a midterm and final, but I like to make those low stress. The midterm and final are open note and open book. The way that I do exams is I will let you take them from wherever you want, whether it's at home, on campus, etc. And you have a 72-hour or 3-day window to take the exam. So once you choose to open it up, you've got 2 hours to finish it. You can refer to your notes. It's half multiple choice, it's half for essay. And it's essentially testing the skills, note-taking work that you've been building over the term. So we have that both for midterm and final. Yes, the final is cumulative to the extent that everything that we talk about in the class builds on the last thing. But I would encourage you, if you're preparing for the final, to dedicate 75% of your time to new content, 25% to old content. There's an essay toward the end of the term where I will be asking you to record a conversation with somebody else with their consent and transcribe that conversation and reflect on your communication with that person. So that doesn't come until later in the term. I'll be going over more details about that as we get closer, just to put that on your radar, that that's an interesting and fun activity that I think a lot of people get things out of. Attendance, you can miss up to 3 classes for any reason, whether it's you're sick, you're traveling for athletics, right? You probably, if you're involved in an extracurricular, have a form that you'll be sending me, right? So any absence, up to 3, you can miss class with no need to turn anything in. But past those 3, I will ask that you watch the recording from that day that you missed. You could alternatively join us through Zoom. I can send you the Zoom link to participate remotely. And then I'll ask you to complete a short makeup assignment. So again, everybody gets 3. Past those 3, you'll want to complete that makeup assignment for each class that you missed, right? This is a 3 or 4 credit course, regardless of whether or not you're in athletics, right? You're doing the same amount of work. It just means that where that work is distributed might look different if you're doing travel, right? And again, I support athletes, people involved for extracurriculars. I did it myself. I traveled a lot for speech and debate, so I understand. And I record in order to ensure that you're able to keep up with your classes. There will be extra credit. It'll add 20 points or 2% onto your final grade. I will also let you know that there'll be another extra credit in which one of the emails or announcements that I send over the course of the term will contain a code word. And if you send me that code word, you'll get extra credit. So look out for that at some point in the term. And I recommend that you continue to read through that information. So I know that I covered a lot of ground here. And I just want to point your attention to the first Canvas prompt that will be due on Friday. Again, you could choose to take it and complete this prompt, or you could choose to have it be one of the 8 that you're not doing. Each week, I'll also post the reading assignment. My advice is to just complete the reading assignment for that week by the end of the week. You can pace yourself however you'd like as you're working through it, but you'll notice, right, that these are just PDFs that cover parts of the textbook that I'm asking you to look at for that particular week. Canvas prompt, you can click on it right here. And the Canvas prompt is asking you to look at communication interactions, some of the things we'll be getting into for our next class meeting. You'll also notice, again, that the schedule is listed here, goes over everything that you should expect. I know that I covered a lot of ground. Any questions about the course policies, course expectations, anything like that? Okay. So the last thing that I would like you to do, and hopefully this will get you out at least a couple minutes before 10:50, because having you stay for the full span of time for the first class meeting is cruel and unusual punishment. The Constitution says that I can't do that. I have a short handout that I'm asking you to fill out. that will just let me know some information about your skills, how you feel about doing certain things. Take one, pass it around. And we'll be doing a workshop day in the second week of the term that will go over some of these skills. Because I think a lot of times we assume that you know things in college that you might not know. And I want to take time to really help to develop those skills that will hopefully help you in all of your classes. So feel free to circle on the front, and you can use the back to write down anything that you find yourself wanting to share with me. You need some extra support.